Hey there, this is John again coming at you with some Midollino fun, and today we're going to make a little extension on one of the previous YouTubes that we just did. So whenever we work with Midollino, what we want to make sure is it's wet. So think of dipping this down into the water and getting a little bit wet. And if you remember, we worked with this Midollino structure in one of our previous designs. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend the tail. So if you look at this pretty closely here where we wrap this down, what I'm going to undo is the first couple inches just so that I can add some other pieces to this design. And I'm going back to where my breaks stop from my other pieces being added on. So I'm going to add another piece there, twist it around. I can see I can add one more piece onto here with one of those other pieces that are stopped, bringing that around. And I also wet the entire structure. So before I started this, I dipped the whole thing in the sink and got it wet so I can manipulate it and make sure that it actually stays pliable too. So let's twist this around here. And I think I'm going to add one more piece to this spoke just to extend it. This just gives us a really nice way to add on to the Midollino structure and have some fun. So I'm not worried that this piece is going to be short here. I'm just going to keep adding on. I'm going to set these little kids off to the side. I'm going to use some of our metallic wire or jewelry wire from Oasis, a wonderful product which we love. And I'm just going to extend on right where I left off. And I like to kind of like crank it on there and just make it quick and easy. And a lot of times I'll actually just let that flow right on the floor. And it's going to want to do its own thing. I want it on this side. There we go. That way I could just kind of make it fast and easy and just crank this side around and make it just be a really, really quick ending. But this is really cool because it's going to extend the tail to allow us to do some other fun little elements. So have that right there. Going to snip this off. And I'm going to do a couple other things. So I'm going to add myself just a couple more little pieces of the metallic wire. So I have these for a little add-on. So set that off to the side. Bring our structure back up, and you can see how beautiful this is, but it's a really large structure. So what I want to do is I want to shrink it down just a little bit. So being as it that I've already wet this, it's going to allow me to make this a little more pliable, and I can bring either whichever spoke which I'd like to, and I'm actually just bring both of them, but I think let's see if we just rotate this a little bit more here, and I'm going to bind those right there with this piece of the metallic wire. And I'm not going to completely twist it all the way down just so that if I want to attach to it, I can. But this just makes it have a little bit more of a conical feeling and it's a little bit more fun. And I've got some beautiful flowers here I'm going to play with. We've got some wonderful hydrangea. It's like, oh, is that just not beautiful? It's like you pet them like, they pet and talk to you. It's like, oh, it's so pretty. So we have some glorious hydrangea. We have some beautiful roses. And I love this rose. It's called Shimmer. And it's just like, oh, it's just a yummalish color, just a little bit of yellowy, pinky, peachy tones. We also have some Queen's Anne lace off here to the side and some fun tulips. I mean, look at that color combination. Isn't that just scrumptious? Just love those together. So we're going to set these on little piles. When we're working on a hand tie, it's always kind of good to have everything cleaned up. And I've kind of already done that just to make this kind of quick and easy. But if the leaves don't look like they're pristine or perfect, we're just going to take a few of those off. But as I mentioned, I've kind of already cleaned them so they're in good shape. I did see I left a couple leaves on a couple of these roses, so I'll take those off. And this is a good time to take any of the guard petals or anything of that nature off if they look like they're not really pristine. But I love some of the guard petals. They have some of those really natural tones to them. Also our hydrangea, I'm going to take these extra little lateral leaves off and set those down over here and clean my table up a little bit. So this is an armature. So when we're looking at Midollino for the structures, we think of our skeletal system as a structure, and this also is a structure that we're going to use for an armature. So our Midollino is an armature, and I'm going to use my hydrangea for an armature. So what I'm going to do is thread my hydrangea down through my Midollino structure, and you're going to see how wonderful this little kid is. So yummy. We're going to tuck him in and work that down in. And some of these little florets, I'm just going to scooch them down and through. It's like, this is going to become an armature to be able to thread more flowers through. I talked about structure systems. Like, I mean, just how beautiful that is, just like that. So what I'd like to do next is I'm going to add some fun dimension by adding some tulips. I love tulips because we know tulips are phototropic and geotropic. Phototropic, they're going to go towards the light. Geotropic, once they lay down, their little heads pop right up. But what's great about the Midollino structure that we did double spokes. So we have the 2 spokes here. So what it's going to allow me to do is I'm going to thread my tulips through, and I'm going to let it get caught on that spoke, and I'm going to thread it down through to hold that in place. And you can see how fun this is going to give us some great dimension and just kind of creating a different motion line going through the spokes of the Midollino, threading it down through the base. And I'm going to let that little head get caught up here in the top. And I mean, just look how fun that directional line of the spokes are going this way, and we're going to go the opposite direction. And I'm not worried if they move around because I know the tulips have a tendency to want to be very playful. So I'm going to do both levels. I have this top layer, I have a bottom layer. So let's split a couple of these up too. And bringing that down to here. Separate right there, stretching it through. And whenever we manipulate flowers of any type, we always want to make sure they're at room temperature. Make sure they're pliable and soft and warm, because if they're cold from out of the cooler, a lot of times they might want to snap a little bit. So let's bring a couple over through here, separate my spoke, in and through. And I'm threading everything down through the base. But I just love it because these spokes of the Midollino will hold the tulips nicely in place and make it just be a fun additional. I mean, look how nice that rhythm is. It's just very playful and moving around. This little kid just changed his little head, and they're going to move around on us. I'm not so worried about that, but for now I want them to kind of play the right way for me. Let's thread this one down through here and holding that in spot. And I'm just going to work a couple of these actually down and through my hydrangea, just to bring a little bit of that fun color that direction. Doing a little bit of grouping. We know if we group like items, it gives us a little stronger impact. And I've got to kind of rotate them a little bit, kind of to work it through so I don't break the bracts of the hydrangea, just to give them a little bit of fun color. Now I'm going to add some wonderful roses. And I mentioned this rose is just beautiful. It's that peachy pinky color. So I'm going to create my focal area. There again, kind of do a little rotation, working these through. I'm going to focus one there, bring one back on this back side. And I'm going to stagger them. I want it to terrace a little bit so it creates some beautiful little pillowing so I get some different dimensions. And it really is wherever your creativity goes with this design to allow some wonderful depth and some beautiful color. And this little kid's fighting me. I think I hit, there we go, hit another stem. And just kind of working that through to give myself some beautiful color. I'm going to bring a little bit of color down through here at the base. I mean, just how yummy that is. And when in doubt, leave out. Well, I'm going to add one more. I think one more over on this back side is going to make it just a little bit even prettier, just to bring some color back on that dimensional side, which is just fun. This little kid we're not going to use. We're going to set him off to the side. We're going to add just a little bit of Queen's Anne lace, just for some fun depth, just to give us a little bit of that playful texture going back and forth. I mean, how beautiful that little bit of Queen's Anne lace becomes. Sometimes I got to find the stem on the back side so I can pull it through. And I don't want it to be too tight because I want it to give me some dimension coming out. And wiggle this little trooper through here. And I cleaned a lot of the extra little pieces off the Queen's Anne lace just to make it a cleaner insertion when it goes actually into the design. We'll move that one over there. Just kind of softens those a little bit. And I'm just going to bring a little bit of this Queen's Anne lace through one of my spokes just to bring my dimensional line down for a little bit of a tail. I mean, how fun that is. I also have some beautiful seeded, silver dollar eucalyptus, and I'm just going to do a little bit of collaring. So a lot of times when you get these stems, you're going to have a whole bunch of leaves, and I just took a lot of the leaves off just so it's going to give me this beautiful little collar just to grace the bottom of this design a little bit. A little bit on this side, balance, counterbalance. I'm going to bring a little bit back on the other side just to make that be very fun. One of my other products, which I absolutely love, is when we're working with ribbons and things, is just organdy ribbon. Organdy ribbon is great because it can get wet, it dries right off, and you can do some wonderful things to it. So I'm just really quickly going to tie this off, and don't tie it too tight. We don't want to break our tulips. We're going to give it just a fun little first part of a square knot. Going to trim our little tails off. And I like to always camouflage my mechanics. We don't like those to be seen, so I'm just going to tuck their little gizzards right underneath there. I talk to my flowers. I'm sure you guys do too. And just give ourselves a fun little cut. And we're going to put this in a beautiful container. And I've chose a bubble bowl. This glass bubble bowl I think would just be great to allow it to grace the top of it. So I have some wonderful little water here. Let's just fill that little bad boy with some there. And we're going to give this just a fun, clean, quick little cut so it'll actually just dance right across the top. And set that in there, just allow that to rest, and it's like, oh, it's just so beautiful. But then we have this wonderful tail. And a lot of times I love being able to integrate the tail or things to the table to bring the table up. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this down around the base and make this be a part which is absolutely beautiful to make everything be very cohesive. I mean, couldn't you see like some candlelight or some petals or even another rose worked on there? And we can still manipulate this to get some fun angles. But I mean, this is just a beautiful way to show a fun centerpiece with Midollino. And what a beauty it does with the flowers and the tulips. You know, tulips being phototropic and geotropic, they're going to continue to grow, but it really gives us a beautiful illusion. I want to thank you. My name is John Hosick, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into my channel. And if you like what you've seen here, please subscribe and please like. And thanks again, and my name is John.